With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
Exactly, it is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No, we Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
I hope you missed us. We're back. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode of A Bunch of Malarkey after a little 1 week break there for my trip to New York, which was great, by the way. We're closing out the month of September, if you could believe that, welcoming October this week. And we will have a show every week now until the end of the year, till Christmas time. And I know you're probably saying, Christmas, what the hell is he talking about? Well, folks, as I'm taping this show, it's only 87 days until Christmas and 60 days until Thanksgiving, so you better get on the ball. I bought some Christmas decor today at Costco. Yeah, I'm a little crazy, but I love the holidays, as it's well documented here on A Bunch of Malarkey. So I am back from New York. It was a great trip. My in-laws, I spent some time with my in-laws for a week, had a great time. Really, really great trip. The food, the company with them, the time we spent together, just being back in New York was a lot better. It was a lot better there than I remember it. Although I probably would never go live there again because of the cost of everything. It was a great time. I really had a great week there. So, but I'm back here in Georgia, back from fall-like weather in New York to the gates of absolute hell here. Above 90 degrees, going to be like that for yet another week. Hopefully we're going to have a fall here in the South this year, because I got a taste of it up in New York, and it was extraordinary. Sleeping with the windows open, going out to the beach, feeling that cool air. Really, it was really great. So, as you know here on A Bunch of Malarkey, I did a whole show about this, I guess it was about 2 months ago, about mid-air mutants, people who fly on planes that are mutants. And we went over all these unwritten rules and written rules about flying. And, I flew, I should say, up to New York on I guess you could say it's kind of a major airline, more so out west than it is here. I won't mention the name. You got to worry about getting sued. But it was a good experience. And I was hoping, I had the window seat, which I picked. It's an airline that actually assigned seat. They don't roll you in like cattle like some of the other airlines. But on my way to New York, I was sitting by the window, and there was an older woman on the aisle seat, but nobody in the middle. So the whole flight had nobody sitting next to me. It was absolutely terrific. That was until we took off. About a half hour into the flight, the woman on the aisle seat in my row starts digging in her bag. So I'm like, all right, what is she getting? Like a mint? Or first she had I want to say she had one of those masks on. So I'm wondering, is she paranoid about catching something, or is this woman Typhoid Mary? So she reaches into her bag and pulls out a sandwich. She bites into it. It's tuna fish. God knows how long it was out of refrigeration, stinking up the entire front of the plane. We were in the second row. I'm like, all right, the woman's just going to eat her. This was like 8 o'clock in the morning, folks. So I'm sorry, 8:45 we took off. So you're talking about 9:30 in the morning. This woman's eating tuna fish sandwiches in the front of the plane, stinking up the whole plane. I'm like, all right, she's going to eat the sandwich. Everything's going to be fine. Eats the sandwich. About 20 minutes goes by. I'm just kind of enjoying the flight, thinking about all the stuff I was going to do in New York. All of a sudden, this smell comes over the cabin. I thought someone farted. Now, there were 3 people in front of me in the first row that were sleeping. I thought maybe one of them passed gas while they were asleep. But yeah, it's possible. The stench came over these rows like I thought someone had diarrhea in their pants. I didn't know what the hell happened. Out of the corner of my eye, I look over, and this lady who just ate the tuna fish sandwich just popped the top of a Tupperware where she had 4 peeled hard-boiled eggs, and she was eating hard-boiled eggs on the plane. Now, this is something we spoke about in the Mid-Air Mutants episode a few weeks back. If you're going to eat on the plane, granola bars, chips, shit like that doesn't smell. This woman's eating tuna fish and hard-boiled eggs at 9:30 in the morning, stinking up the whole plane. But other than that, the plane ride there and back was fine. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, it could have been worse. When I got back, I read these two airplane stories I have to share with you. One came out of Birmingham, Alabama, where sleepy-eyed airline passengers in Alabama were startled on Thursday early in the morning by the sight of a naked man on the tarmac at 5:30 in the morning at the Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport. According to authorities, the man, who was not identified, told police he was robbed in the area and wandered onto the airport property. The Birmingham Police Sergeant Johnny Williams said. The man was taken into custody, and police learned that he had an outstanding felony probation violation warrant in Shelby County, which is located south of Birmingham. Passenger Stephen Reeves said he was on a Delta flight bound for, where else, Atlanta, and he said the plane's captain made an announcement. The captain made an announcement that said we were standing by because of an unauthorized person on the ramp. The guy said he went back to reading, and then the man in seat 1B pointed out the window and said that the man was naked laying on the tarmac. Reeves was one of several passengers who snapped photos of the incident and posted them to social media. So you got naked men on the tarmac. And then there's another story that was out of the New York area where a New Jersey resident, his name is Jawan LeVar Curry, he was cooling his heels in Platte County, Missouri jail after he was pulled from an Alaska Airlines flight Thursday following an emergency landing in Kansas City. The Sussex County, New York resident was flying to Los Angeles when he became upset that he had to wait in line to use the bathroom in the coach section of the plane while the bathrooms in first class were empty. In a video of the exchange shared on Instagram, Curry, sporting a Jets baseball cap and a Robbie Anderson Jets jersey, gotta be a Jets fan, started an argument with flight attendants over his not being able to use the first class toilets. He's quoted as saying, "You're wrong to make 7 people wait here to use the bathroom while the whole bathroom up there is empty. I don't care how much money you got. This ain't about money. We're trying to use the bathroom." Curry never threatened anyone, according to the video, but when an attendant said they would land the plane and call police, he said, "Go right ahead." They'd rather let the bathroom be empty up there than have 8 people wait in line to use the bathroom while there are 2 bathrooms empty in the front, and you going to tell me that you calling the police? Call the police, he said. This is as wrong as you can fucking be. I'm not that $30,000 a year dude. I make more money than you do, he said. The pilot rerouted the plane to Kansas City International Airport because of the passenger disturbance. Curry was restrained on the plane until he was taken into custody. He's charged with disturbing the peace, making excessive noise, although the FBI said they may tack on additional charges in the days to come. So I'm glad I didn't deal with any of those mutants on the plane, but except the hard-boiled egg-eating lady, which I guess pales in comparison to what I could have dealt with, naked men and people having the flights diverted. So in the last episode, I mentioned the differences between moving to the South or other parts of the country in New York, and I experienced something that I had forgotten about, the attitude in New York. Now, when you call customer service here in the South for a local company, you get great service. I have to say that the people really go out of their way here in the South, whether it be the supermarket, wherever you go, they want to help you. It's kind of over the top. You got to kind of listen to their life story at times. They get a little bit over the top. So my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, had just gotten their lawn seeded about a week before I arrived. And it was starting to come in nice. You know, you seed in the fall, so the roots take up better, and you get a lush lawn in the spring. So they had some bare patches, but the whole lawn was seeded. It was coming in nice. And then they were scheduled to have the lawn fertilized by the same company. And we were ready to go out that day to the beach or wherever, so my father-in-law wanted to know what time these fertilizer guys were coming. So he called up the company. It was on speakerphone. I hear him say to the guy, "What time are you guys coming?" The guy says, "Before 2, which was 9 in the morning, so that was a big window. My father-in-law says, "Okay." And he says, "Listen, you guys just seeded our lawn about a week ago. Is the fertilizer, is it too soon to fertilize, or is the fertilizer going to have an adverse effect on the seed?" You know, really wanting to know the answer. The guy says, "It should be okay." So there was a pause, and my father-in-law was like, "Okay." Hangs up the phone. So I said to my father-in-law, springtime comes, you could have a lush lawn, it could be thriving, or it could just be one big, giant a patch of dirt. I mean, this is the service you get in New York. Even at the restaurants, we didn't have any rude waitresses, but it was just kind of take your order, throw the food at you, check in on you once or twice. In the South, it's just very different. So I noticed that right away about the service up there compared to here in the South. So there are differences, but hey, listen, I'm good. I'm blessed to have two places I could call home, New York and now Georgia. So, and again, two regions of food. What's good, what's bad in both areas. But a woman in Israel, did you guys hear about this story? A guest at an Israeli wedding ended her night in the hospital. Listen to this. After mistaking a spicy chunk of wasabi for a cool piece of avocado. The 60-year-old victim ate a spoonful of the unforgiving Japanese condiment meant to be consumed in small doses. The mix-up caused the unidentified wedding guest to be taken to an emergency room where she was treated for Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which the journal describes as left ventricular dysfunction that typically occurs after sudden intense emotional or physical stress. The condition can be mistaken for a heart attack. This is the first known case brought on by the Japanese horseradish frequently paired with sushi. She was sure it was an avocado. That's why she took a full spoon of it. The unwitting wasabi eater's condition reportedly altered the left ventricle of her heart temporarily, which prohibited from pumping blood as it should. The ailment is also known as broken heart syndrome. Scientists at the University of California have studied wasabi, which is a root, in their efforts to find a cure for the anti-inflammatory pain. So you got to be careful what you're eating, folks, especially if you're in areas where you aren't familiar with the food. So I didn't have any problems eating up there, folks. I was very familiar with the food. It's one of those things now where you take a lot of pictures, you see yourself in those pictures, and you're like, holy shit, am I really that fat? So this is the catalyst now. I've seen myself in too many pictures over the last couple of weeks, so I really need to crack down. But I'll tell you, man, the food was amazing up there. So the trip to New York also coincided with the 10-year anniversary of my dad's passing. So it was good to be up there to visit the cemetery where I have a lot of family buried. My dad, my grandparents, a couple of aunts, and an uncle got to go to the cemetery and pay my respects. So, losing a parent's always a tough thing. But not so much for this woman in Wisconsin this week, where a 60-year-old Wisconsin woman, she's been charged with hiding her mother's corpse after authorities say she didn't report the death for up to 4 months while living off her mom's income. Can you believe this? 4 months. According to the charges filed last Monday, Paula Bergold put the body of her 89-year-old mother, Ruby, in a small Rubbermaid bin and moved it to the basement of her Peshtigo home in eastern Wisconsin, about 50 miles north of Green Bay. A neighbor called the police because Ruby hadn't been seen since May, and Paula was being very evasive as to where Ruby might be. Officers arrived at the Bergold home last week to find a note taped to the door that said Ruby has gone out of town to visit some friends of ours. While standing outside, an officer noticed the smell of decay and saw packets of mothballs all around the doors. Inside, officers found a chair covered in borax and boxes of ammonia and bleach, but no sign of Ruby. Paula Bergold eventually acknowledged her mother was dead and that her body was in the home. Bergold told police she found her mother dead in a chair and couldn't bring herself to call authorities. After the body began to smell, she put it in the Rubbermaid bin. She allegedly told police she'd been living off the mother's Social Security income and investments and said her concern about money played into her decision not to report her mother's death. Court records don't list an attorney to comment on Bergold's behalf. She appeared in court via video feed from jail. She's charged with hiding a corpse, failing to report a death, and obstruction. Now, losing a parent is traumatizing enough. You never get over it. You think about your mom, your dad, whoever you lost. But to have your parent decaying in a Rubbermaid bin in your basement just to collect some money, it's sick, folks. It's sick. So, but we've had stories like that on the podcast before about people doing that. And one or two of them even were nominees for Mutant of the Week. And speaking of that, does that not transition to our favorite segment?
A bunch of malarkey.
Mutant of the Week.
Now here's Charlie.
Okay, so where did we leave off? We left off a couple weeks ago where we had a pretty close match where the canine for Coochie Kidnapper, the guy who kidnapped the woman's dog and bribed her for sex, with ransom for sex to return the dog, he beat the mutant motel markswoman, the woman having loud sex at the motel who tussled with the security guard and shot in the air. It was a 55 to 45% win for the canine for Coochie Kidnapper. So he is our mutant of the week and has been wearing that crown since we last ended the voting last Saturday. So I guess you could say congratulations to the canine for Coochie Kidnapper. He is our mutant of the week until one of these two dethrone him. Where else, folks? We got to go down to Nassau County, Florida. When I saw Nassau County, that's a county on Long Island, I thought, wow, how fitting. I was just on Long Island. But no, this is Nassau County, Florida, where Nassau County resident Katie Jade Gates, she's only 19, she was arrested after she became angry that she was not allowed to eat more than her fair share of tomatoes and chased her grandfather. Tomatoes, folks. According to the grandmother, Gates began to throw a fit because she couldn't have any more tomatoes. Gate then became disrespectful towards others in the house, enraging them, according to reports. Gates initially threw a cigarette pack at her great-grandmother, 73, striking her in the eye, deputies said. Then Gates grabbed a knife and started wielding it and waving it towards her grandfather. Her grandfather ran out of the house, and Gates chased him with the knife in her hand, police say. She threatened to stab him in the face and began poking the knife toward his face, nearly cutting him, police say. Police arrested Gates on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and aggravated battery on a victim over the age of 65. She was transported to the Nassau County Detention Facility. Gates and her grandparents live together. Well, I guess they used to live together now. So let's call her the tomato tussling teen. I've never seen anybody get enraged over tomatoes before, but there's a first time for everything on A Bunch of Malarkey. So the tomato tussling teen out of Florida is our first mutant nominee. Our second nominee, we have to go down to Louisiana. I think we may have had one Louisiana mutant nominee in the past. But anyway, Louisiana truck stop turned into a real zoo when a woman chomped down on a camel's testicles while trying to retrieve her dog that had scrambled into the camel's den, according to a report. The showdown between the woman, who wasn't identified, and Casper the camel, a roadside attraction, happened last Thursday at a truck stop in Grosse Tete, about 20 minutes outside of Baton Rouge. The woman's husband was tossing treats to their dog under Casper's fence, prompting the pup to crawl inside the camel's enclosure. The couple followed after their dog, but the woman didn't get very far before Casper the camel took a seat on top of her, crushing her. So she bit down on his testicles to free herself, she told police. She said, "I bit his balls to get him off of me. I bit his balls to get him off of me." An investigation revealed that the couple had provoked Casper the camel before he sat on the intruder. The camel did nothing wrong, Hamilton said. The couple was aggressive. The camel was just doing its normal routine. Employees at the truck stop did not face any charges because the camel was enclosed and signs warning the public to stay out are posted every 10 feet, deputies added. The camel has never been aggressive. The camel has never gotten out or caused anyone any issues, Hamilton told the paper. In fact, the husband and wife started before that we've even... In fact, the husband and wife stated before that we've even been here before and we've never had any problems. The couple was cited with a leash law violation for letting the dog run free on the private property, as well as criminal trespassing. My only question to her husband was, why did you throw dog treats in the camel enclosure? And he just said, I wasn't thinking. Truck stop manager Pamela Bossier said the pair should have asked for help from employees instead of crawling under the barbed wire to retrieve their pup. It's no wonder that Casper got upset, claiming the man shoved the camel and swatted at it with his hat when he got into the pen. Any animal you provoke, they're going to strike back. It's instinct. For the past 30 years, the truck stop has kept various wild animals at the enclosure, including a tiger, drawing the ire of local animal rights groups. There hasn't been any previous issues with any of the animals. So let's call her the Camel Castrator out of Louisiana. So we got a heavyweight battle this week. We got the Tomato Tussling Teen out of Florida, and we've got the Camel Castrator. So, folks, we are back. Just want to throw a couple of things out there. If you want to contact the show for any reason, you have an idea for a show topic, you want to be on the show, you can do that by phone. Anything you want to add, comments, we get a lot of them. We get a lot of emails. We also have a phone number. Nobody's going to answer. You can block your phone number so you don't put your phone number on the caller ID, so you can leave a voicemail. Nobody's going to answer. You could call us at 706-406-8212, 706-406-8212. Or you can email us at abunchofmalarkeypodshow@gmail.com. Those are the two ways to get in touch. You want to be a guest on the show. You know somebody that would be a good guest on the show. You want us to cover a certain topic. There, you can always put your input into the show. As you all know, we're available on all major podcast platforms. And if you want to be a patron of the show, make a small monthly donation where you'll get extra content, go to Patreon, patreon.com/abunchofmalarkey. $1 a month, $2 a month, whatever you want to donate to the show. You'll get extra coverage, extra shows, extra crank calls. We have something special for the donors. And as far as the Mutant of the Week poll we just did, that poll goes up. The voting starts on Tuesday mornings bright and early and runs through midday on Saturday on our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey. So look for us there. Like the page. If you already like the page, share the page with your friends. Tell them to like it. Again, call us. Leave us a voicemail. You're thinking of a topic that we haven't covered that might be funny, 706-406-8212, or email us at abunchofmalarkeypodshow@gmail.com. Make sure you vote for the Mutant of the Week. Tuesday through Saturday, the poll runs. So while I was away, folks, and you've heard from my father-in-law before. He's been on the show. We talked briefly about expiration dates when he was here, collections, stuff that he collects, stuff you should toss out. And we kind of, just scratched the surface. Now, my father-in-law has a great collection of stuff that he showed me when I've seen it before, but he's got new stuff since I haven't been down there, up there in quite a while. He's got a great collection of newspapers, like every major event in the history of this country from the 1600s, before the country was even established, really, all the way to modern day. Every major event he's got newspapers for. I mean, thousands of newspapers. Antique telephones, antique record players, sports memorabilia. It's like a time capsule. He's got posters, war posters from World War I and World War II, all the originals. Now, you go down in his house in this area, and it's like a time capsule. You're really frozen in time, and it's so interesting. And that got me to thinking of, collectibles that I have, and collectibles that all of you might have in your attic, in your garages, in your closets, stuff that we thought was going to be worth a lot of money, folks. And then eBay came along, and we realized that every Tom, Dick, and Harry had the same shit in their basement. So we're going to talk today about stuff we have laying around that might be of great sentimental value to us, but really doesn't have any value anymore. And many of us hold on to things for years, sometimes decades. We believe that these so-called treasures that we may be made for investment are worth money now. We were told that as kids. Save that. It's going to be worth money someday. It could be anything. We were told that. It's going to be a collector's item. That was the big one. Some of this stuff, again, languishes in the basement or in the attic in boxes, and you think you're always going to get to that point where you're going to cash in. Unfortunately, you were sure these things would appreciate in value. But more often than not, they turn out to be worth nothing, or at least not much more than you paid for them initially. So we're going to go over some things that you might want to unload to clear out that clutter and maybe pocket a little bit of cash. Not as much cash as you're thinking, folks. Now, we all remember these Beanie Babies. You couldn't go anywhere I think it was the 1990s where it was a big thing. You couldn't go anywhere in the 1990s without stumbling on Beanie Baby mania. Remember Beanie Babies, folks? I think they were introduced, in 1993 by Ty. There were these plush toys. There were 9 in the original collection, and they were must-haves. If they weren't played with and had their paper tag still attached, some could indeed command pretty good sums. But up until last year on eBay, a collection of 2001 Happy Birthday Bears, the complete set of 12, was seeking a starting bid of just $15 with no takers. So you got to go on eBay, folks, and see what these things are going for. Again, I wouldn't just throw anything out. If something's sentimental to you, definitely hold on to it. But if you think you're going to pass it along to your kids and they're going to cash in someday for millions or thousands of dollars, it ain't going to happen. The buying frenzy decreased on Beanie Babies after 1998 when Ty produced so many Beanie Babies for the worldwide market that retailers had difficulty selling them off. They were once influential, but now they're worthless collectibles. The Beanie Baby craze was real and widespread, and their popularity makes them one of the most influential toys of all time. A few of the plush dolls, such as the Royal Blue Peanut and the Elephant and the Princess Diana Beanie Babies, can bring more than 1,000, but the vast majority aren't worth keeping. Again, unless you have sentimental value to your childhood or you just want to pass them down to your kids for them to play with. But if you're saving them in a box thinking they're going to be worth thousands someday, don't waste your time. If you grew up in my generation, you all remember the Cabbage Patch craze. People beating the shit out of each other in stores. Even me and my brother calling people up, telling them they won Cabbage Patch dolls in the height of the craze, sending them down to a local Sears store to to their shock when they got there and showed their ID that there was no Beanie Baby Cabbage Patch Kid waiting for them. So Cabbage Patch Kids were a big thing. I mean, if you're young folks and you don't remember Cabbage Patch, people were killing each other for these things. A few are worth a fortune, folks, but most are worthless. Most millennials have no clue about these dolls that took the world by storm in the early 80s, and they probably don't care. A sealed vintage mint condition Cabbage Patch doll could be worth a fortune, but the majority are worth less than $25, which is the price tag on them from the 80s. So, again, you want to check eBay, see what the exact one you have is selling for, but the vast majority of them you're going to have trouble unloading. You can get a couple of bucks for them, or you can pass them on and have your kid play with them. You know, take it out of the box. Let somebody enjoy the toy. Aren't toys meant to be played with? Isn't that like from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Island of Misfit Toys, that toys are meant to be played with? Here's one. An ex-girlfriend of mine collected these, and she thought she was going to be rich someday. Disney VHS tapes, all the Disney movies on VHS. She wouldn't even open them and watch them. She just saved them. The nostalgia might be priceless, folks, but the movies aren't. The best Disney movies instantly take us back to our childhood, and that nostalgia, of course, is priceless. However, the overwhelming majority of Disney VHS tapes aren't going to pay for a new car. The supposedly limited edition Black Diamond Collection movies aren't rare at all. Sure, you might get a few bucks for them, but in reality, you won't get more than $5 for each film if you try selling your collection. Now, you've all been up late on these infomercials and seen these Franklin Mint products, coins, collector's plates, figurines. They look great, folks, but they're not great investments. You could buy coins, toy cars, games, china, and porcelain, and other items from the Franklin Mint, but you shouldn't expect a return on your investment in the long run. The items look great, but they're worthless. A John McCain $2 bill and presidential coins are unique, but they're not rare enough to achieve true collectible status. Now, we all went to McDonald's when we were kids. And again, if you're from my generation, we were around when the Happy Meal came out, and they always had those toys in there. McDonald's has been selling Happy Meal since the late 70s, so it's even earlier than I thought. I thought it was the early 80s. And many of those tiny toys included with the food have indeed become collectibles worth several $100 for a complete set. But most people haven't collected all 101 Dalmatians. And like many other youth collectibles, Happy Meal toys are worth big bucks only in mint condition with their original packaging, which includes the Happy Meal box. These giveaways are most often ripped open and played with moments after the purchase. These childhood staples won't net you much money. The 10-year-old and all of us would probably say that McDonald's Happy Meal toys were the best part of the meal. A glimpse of a Mickey D's branded Hot Wheels car, My Little Pony, or Barbie dolls may instantly transport you back to your childhood, but that's about all they're going to do for you. you likely won't get much more than $1 if you try selling them on eBay. So it's probably not worth your time to put in the effort. So again, pass them down to your kids. Let them play with them. Let someone play with the toys. What about these Hummel figurines? How many people did you know collected these Hummel figurines? You went into a friend's house and the mom would say, "Don't touch those Hummels," and they were like a prized possession. They were once rare, but now they're really readily available everywhere. Again, I think it's because of eBay. Many soldiers returning from World War II brought German Hummel figurines for the women in their lives along with them. The 3D ceramic figures were incredibly popular, so they produced more and more versions and sold them all over the world. What were once rare collectibles are now readily available, which makes them practically worthless. Plus, younger generations aren't interested in collecting them. So there's really not a market for these figurines anymore. Again, you want to display them still in your curio. Do people still have curio cabinets? Or, pass them down or something, but you're not going to get any money for them. Here's one, model train sets. That's something we always thought were going to be worth a lot of money, especially the Lionel train sets. But a lot of them now are worthless. If you have a model train set, chances are it's a Lionel, and chances are it's merely worthless clutter at this point. As with anything, a few are worth their weight in gold, but the Lionel, Collectors Club of America says that most train sets don't have a high collector value at all. The old model train may not have been the underside of a Christmas tree in years, but it was made by Lionel, which has been producing model trains for more than a century, so it's tempting to think it's valuable. Many of the trains made in the early years, right up through the present, have kept their value, and some are highly valued by collectors. But the more common ones, while worthy of running, may not have a high collector value. As usual, condition, rarity, and the original box are key. If the train is in beaten-up boxes jammed with twisted wires, bent tracks, and a lot of rust, you can just forget it. So there are a few of these trains that are worth some money. Do your research, but don't think, again, you're going to buy a new house with it. Here's one that hits home for me, folks, and it's depressing. There was a recent documentary about this on Netflix about baseball cards of the 80s and 90s. Now, these used to be worth a lot more. I used to get those Beckett baseball price guide books, and there were baseball cards worth $200 in the 80s that are worth $1 now, $5. Because then everyone discovered that these were mass-produced, and everybody had one. Newer trading cards aren't worth much. Yeah, Babe Ruth's bat and a Honus Wagner baseball card are among the most expensive sports collectibles in history. However, sports trading cards from the 80s and 90s are virtually worthless. It all comes down to supply and demand, like everything else. At the peak of the trading card boom in the 80s and 90s, companies produced hundreds of thousands of every card. There are so many out there now that anyone can buy any card they want, even a mint condition Ken Griffey Jr. rookie for pennies. If you're a sports card collector and your kid's a baseball fan or a football fan, whatever sport you have, just pass them down to the kids. Definitely check out that Netflix documentary. I just can't, the name of it escapes me right now, but it's definitely worth checking out. It really tells you why baseball cards from that era aren't worth the paper they're printed on anymore. I keep them for the sentimental value. I like going through them once a year or so and just leafing through them. It brings me back to my childhood. I thought maybe one day that I would cash in big time. I even had a guy, when I worked at the sporting goods store, I had a guy where I bought my pizza from, and my family bought their pizza, the owner of the pizzeria, who used to buy like 20 complete sets every year, and I used to pick it up for him at work. He'd give me the money and use my employee discount, and he told me, I buy 10 or 20 of these sets for my son. I'm going to pay for his college one day. He started collecting them in like the late 70s through the 90s. 20 years worth of 20 sets per year, 400 sets of cards. He thought he was going to pay for his kid's college or retire on this. I guess he was pretty surprised. So trading cards once were a big business. Again, if you have the rookie Mickey Mantle, don't throw it out. Old cards before the 80s worth some money, but unfortunately everything since the 80s there seems to be a glut out there. You remember these folks? Norman Rockwell collector's plates? How many people's houses did you go into and see those Norman Rockwell collector's plates standing in the little stand in a curio cabinet? Anyone can buy these plates at any time. Plates featuring Norman Rockwell's slice of Americana. They look great, but they're not collectibles. Anyone who wants one can readily buy them online starting at $25, so there's no secondary market. You need demand to make something valuable, and since these plates don't have that, they are pretty much worthless collectibles. I don't know if you remember these. They were in the 90s. I remember them because I was working at I mentioned this job many times, a Caldor store, which was kind of like a cross between a Walmart and a Target. And these were big in the toy department. Pogs. A short-lived niche collectible that isn't worth much now. Some of the rarest Pogs can be valuable, but by and large, these cardboard or plastic discs are just taking up space at this point. The 90s heyday of Pog collecting was short-lived and was a niche hobby to begin with. So if you still have some, it might be time to get rid of them. Again, or pass them down to your kids, or if they're sentimental value. I think sentimental value, this is something my wife doesn't understand. I don't collect things because I think they're going... Like my father-in-law's collectibles, they're an investment. He could turn around and sell this stuff, and it's an investment. My collectibles are for sentimental value. I like going through them. It takes you back to the childhood. My wife really can't understand that. She's just like, take a picture of it in your phone and put it on a thumb drive, and you can look at the picture every once in a while. But it's not the same as holding it in your hand. And that's why I keep a lot of the stuff for sentimental. So I think sentimental plays a big role. So I'm not encouraging anybody to throw anything out. I just want to let you know that this shit's not worth anything. If you think you're going to cash out, you've been waiting and this is the year we cash out those Pokemon cards and buy a new car. It's not going to happen. Which leads us to the next item, Pokemon cards. Pokemon remains popular, but the trading cards are worthless. You know, remember the Pokemon Go on your smartphone a couple of years ago? That battery-sucking app that had people walking around aimlessly through town. Pokemon's still popular, but the cards are by and large worthless from the 90s. Manufacturers cashed in on the craze by producing tons and tons of cards, and there's so many out there that none are rare enough to command top dollar. So if you have the Pokemon cards from the 90s, just, again, pass them down to your kids. Comic books. Now, newer comic books, anything from like the 80s, here we go again with the 80s on, won't get you much money. Unless you've dug into a stash of comics and uncovered the ultra-rare issue from the earliest days of Superman, Batman, or the classic Marvel heroes, you're likely holding on to a pile of childhood memories and nothing more. As the baby boomers age, they are paring down and trying to cash in, and the market for comics is glutted right now. Condition, as with so many collectibles, is key too. A random check of price guides and online marketplaces might prove eye-opening, to say the least. Some comic books are worth big money, like the ones where Batman, Thor, or Spider-Man first make their appearance. However, most of these comics are utterly worthless. Most comic books printed from 1980 onward have those three things going against them. They feature characters who are already well established. Newer heroes coming onto the scene aren't as beloved as the X-Men or Iron Man or established characters. And their resurgent popularity means publishers print more, so comics aren't as rare as the ones from older eras. So if you have those comic books, folks, and there's not a specialty issue, again, pass them down to your kids or keep them for sentimental value, but you're not going to be putting that extension on the house anytime soon. Now, stamps. Stamps were big, big collectibles, but they're filled with variables also. Condition plays a big part in determining value, as does age and rarity. The casual collector, who simply saves these stamps, or what looks pretty or interesting, or maybe rips off the corner of an envelope to save that delicate flower, historical figure, or landscape, will wind up with boxes full of worthless stamps. The same goes for those stamp albums, children or beginners, sparsely filled when they started these collections, and any U.S. postal stamps from the last 70 years. What most people have, and they aren't worth very much. Again, there are stamps out there worth money. Check eBay, check price guides, but most of them are worthless. These were big. Wheat pennies. Every so often, news of a rare coin, perhaps a recently discovered misstep by the U.S. Mint, gets people emptying their pockets in search of a jackpot. Good luck with that, folks. More common is the collecting of wheat pennies, also known as wheatbacks or wheat cents, based on hearing that they're worth more than their face value. That just means they're worth more than 1 cent, from 3 to 4 cents to a few dollars at most. So it would take a lot of those wheat pennies to make the seller rich. Now you go to these remember, you go antiquing, folks. antique. People love antiques. Brown furniture is kind of going the way of worthlessness now. Now, you know what brown furniture is. It's that sturdy, dark wood, those workhorses such as cabinets, slide boards, dining tables, bedroom sets, museum-quality work by noted crafters and designers of historic importance, commands the prices one might hope. But everyday home furnishings from the late 1900s and early 20th century have taken a hit on aesthetic and monetary fronts. Art Deco and mid-century modern pieces are more in demand. A walk through many antique shops or consignment shops will find the old brown pieces relegated to the back of the store or the basement with price tags to match. So that old brown furniture, folks, people aren't wanting it anymore. And I'll tell you, after watching all these paranormal shows that I watch, I wouldn't bring antiques into the house anymore. There's been instances where people bring these in, and there's like a spirit attached to this piece, and I wouldn't do it. I won't buy antiques anymore. But we'll get into that more as we get closer to Halloween. Costume jewelry was once big. And that industry, or that market, I should say, is driven by trends and pop culture. You know, one season long necklaces for layering her in. The next, it's disco-era chokers. Some collectors bypass anything that isn't signed. You know, designers stamp and their name or logo on the reverse. So iconic pieces from noted designers and manufacturers command top dollar. But by nature, the bulk of costume jewelry is mass-produced, designed to bring a bit of glamour within the reach of everyone. That means there's an overabundance of pieces that, while pretty and intricate, fill the $5 or $10 tables at flea markets. And again, condition plays a part. It's hard to unload pieces with missing rhinestones or faulty clasps. Everybody has these too. A family heirloom or serving platter. The china serving platter given at your grandparents' wedding that was used by generations has finally been passed down to you. It was never nicked. It was never chipped. A miracle. It has to be worth something, right? But with so many reproductions or revivals of vintage patterns, it can be difficult for an amateur to authenticate a piece and accurately gauge collectible quality, condition, and rarity. If the platter is in pristine and from a noted line such as Royal Albert Old Country Roses, you may be in luck. More often, though, passed down pieces are valuable only for their family history. So if you were thinking about cashing in great-grandma's platter, you might be disappointed, folks. You just might be disappointed. How about precious moments? Everybody's mom had precious moments back in the day, 70s, 80s. And especially those bride and groom sets that they would put on their wedding cakes. Remember those? Precious Moments bride and groom sets made good wedding gifts or keepsake cake toppers, going on to take pride of place in the new couple's first home. A recent scroll through eBay found that many have provoked nostalgia, but not envy. As some from the 70s, like the Lord Bless You and Keep You, billed as rare, was listed for $8.50. So keep them as a memory, but you're not going to cash out on those Precious Moments bride and groom sets either. These were popular too. I used to see these at grandparents' house and a lot of people's house. Souvenir bells. Come on, everybody you know collected them. They were like either porcelain or metal bells commemorating locations, destinations, or special events. Maybe somebody brought them back from Las Vegas or London for you, wanting you to feel part of their trip or something. But they are not worth anything. You could travel the world through eBay, picking up bells from Mount Vernon, $4, Hawaii, $6, Singapore, $5, or a Liberace bell for $18. Not exactly world-class prices. A lot of people collected salt and pepper sets. I never heard of this, but apparently they were very popular. Bells might not have been your thing, but maybe you love to bring your salt and pepper shakers collection to the forefront in your home. Most sell on eBay today for well under $10, not much more than what you paid for them when you originally bought them. A recent lot featured cowboy hats, King Kong, and the Empire State Building on eBay with a bunch of others, and they all went for $40. There was like 12 of them. So you might want to uncrowd your shelves and sell them for a few bucks, but you're not going to cash in on those either. All right, if you grew up in the New York area, you went to Broadway shows a lot, and you had those playbills they hand out at the beginning of the show. And you always tucked those away, thinking they were going to be worth money. Vintage playbills. Broadway shows always seem like a luxury, especially with today's ticket pricing, folks, you know. And vintage playbills, especially from opening nights, might seem like theatrical gold. Unfortunately, prices have dropped since the advent of the internet. A 1964 playbill for Funny Girl featuring Barbra Streisand, once going for $350, can now be had for $10. There are no exceptions. There are always exceptions, as always, but these collectibles may be best valued for the memories of going to the show. Again, enjoy them, display them, frame them, but don't expect to cash out. And last but not least, this is something we got every single Christmas Eve as a kid, those Hess trucks. Of course, we believed in Santa, and who doesn't believe in Santa? Santa is real. We were allowed to open one thing. Well, it wasn't even, I shouldn't even say open. Santa hadn't come yet, so there were no gifts under the tree until we went to bed, till Santa came. But my grandparents would bring us on Christmas Eve, which was a big thing for us, our Hess truck. They would bring us Hess trucks to play with on Christmas Eve. We played with them, got them every single year. And we were also told, those are going to be a collector's item. Don't break it. If you have the first one from 64, when it's sold for $1.39 and it's in pristine condition, you can get about $2,500 for it. But a quick check on prices recently shows that dozens of models, especially those from the, guess what, 70s and 80s, sell well for well under $40. There are plenty of Hess collectors, but skyrocketing prices are not the norm. So those are just some things you may have lying around your attic, your closets, your basements. Take a look. It's so easy now to run something through eBay, see how many people are selling them, what they're selling for, how many bids are on them, what the interest is like. If you're looking to get some extra bucks, definitely sell them. But if you still want to hold on to them for sentimental value, yeah, of course, I encourage that, actually. That's why I won't part with my stuff, no matter what my wife says. So that was our little chat about collectibles, our little welcome back show. We got a lot of great things planned for you for the month of October. I'm already working on some shows for October. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up, especially with Halloween approaching and Thanksgiving and then the holidays. So we got, I think it's 12 shows until we break for Christmas. So you got 12 weeks of malarkey. Tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friends. Again, we welcome ideas for shows because every week we sit, I shouldn't say we, I sit, and I try to come up with a new topic. I have a list of topics that I cross over. I will do this one, we'll do this one. Guests, obviously, we have guests on. But if you want to be a guest on the show, you have something to add to the show, we welcome guests. We could do it by telephone. You don't have to be in the Atlanta metro area. If you have an idea for a topic, we'd love to hear from you. If you have something you think that we'd cover that would be interesting or funny, get in touch with us. 706 is the area code, 406-8212. Give us a call. Again, block your number if you don't want us having your number. No one's going to answer the phone. It goes right to voicemail. We will listen to your voicemail and take your suggestion into consideration, or just email us, a bunch of malarkey podshow at gmail.com. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know if you have any ideas for upcoming episodes. And again, if you're a loyal listener and you want some added content, go to patreon.com/abunchofmalarkey. Donate $1 a month, $2 a month, $3 a month, whatever you can afford. Be a patron of the show, support the show, and you'll get that extra coverage. Again, Mutant of the Week poll. Where do you go? Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey. Poll goes up on Tuesday morning, ends on Saturday. And this week we have the tomato tussling teen, because who doesn't love tomatoes, versus the camel castrator, because who doesn't love biting a camel's balls. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go through your closets. I hope you see if you can get a few bucks for any of your collectibles that might be collecting dust. Or if not, just pass them down to the kids. Finally open them up, folks. If it's something you have that went on that list that I just mentioned that's not going to be worth anything, let your kids enjoy it. I mean, eventually I'll give my baseball cards to some kid, somebody's kid. I don't know. I don't have any kids, but I'll find a kid who wants baseball cards. I'll find this. I'll find somebody for my collectibles someday that aren't worth shit. Until then, I'm going to hold on to them for sentimental value. But if you have some of this stuff, cash it in for a few bucks, or pass it down to your kid, or kid you know, or a nephew, or a niece, or somebody who's going to love this stuff. and let them enjoy it. So, folks, if you're just hanging out in your house, enjoying those collectibles, trying to talk your wife out of selling them, or you're on an airplane going to visit some relatives like I just did, the holidays coming up, you're going to be visiting, or anywhere you are listening to this show, you have to beware, because it's a shit show out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week with yet another episode. I hope you all have a great week, and we will talk to you next week. Take care, everybody.